Hi,
Mhm.
everyone. Welcome to our July 11th, 11/11. We're back another month
Or more.
for more fabulous conversations about what it means to live our values every day. Because it is game on right now, isn't it? Everyone else feeling that? Like, all right.
Well stated. Well stated. Yes.
Lean into our values if there's anything else to lean into, right? So welcome. We are so happy you're here, or if you're watching the recording, we're glad you're tuning in later too. So we come on here every month on the 11th of the month at 11 a.m. to talk about living our values. And Sheila and I answer your questions. We have a dynamic conversation, usually around a topic. And we like to kick this party off with talking about what are our core values. Because a lot of times values are mentioned in a very general and vague way, but they're not really talked about in what it means specifically. So we like to start with the definition of what we call core values. So core values are single words or short phrases that reflect what is most important to us on a deepest level. They connect us to our highest and best self. And in that way, they become a bridge. They become a bridge from that highest self to how we relate to the outside world, and also help us when we're out in the world remember who we really are. So they become this tether, no matter what we're doing, to stay connected to our best self.
Mhm.
So that's what we look at core values, and think they are a tool is a tool that is incredibly useful and underutilized and under talked about. So we highlight that here. And this month, our theme is the I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. So I want to start with a question, which is anyone ever have a moment where they just don't know? It could be kind of like on your knees in the bathroom, I don't know. Or it could just be waking up and going, I don't know how this day is going to work. So it could be anything. Curious. You can raise a hand, you can put it in the chat, you can just say yes. However you can do that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay,
Absolutely.
good. Yeah. As I was thinking about this, what I realized was that for myself, I didn't like to say I didn't know when I was younger. I had a far more oh, I like Jude. I like your thumbs up, your animated thumbs up. That's great. Um, I felt a lot of shame when I didn't know something. I felt a lot of fear when I didn't know something. And that could be like not knowing an answer in a test. It could be not an answer when someone asked me a question about myself or my future. And it caused a lot of anxiety within me. And today I'm grateful to say that I am far more comfortable saying, I don't know. And that has given me so much freedom, because the flip side of I don't know is the reminder of what I do know. And so for me, what I lean on when I don't know is what I do know, which is my values. And funny enough, when I talk to the teens that I work with, I'll say in an interview, if they're getting interviewed for a college or university or something like that, and they don't know an answer to a question that they have, what they can answer about is through the lens of their values. They can answer it in a way of what they do know. Because I remember getting interviewed when I was 18, 17, probably, for college. And I was asked, like, well, if you could do anything in the world, what would it be? And I went blank. I did not, grow up saying I wanted to do this or that. And I made up some story about owning a store in France. I mean, never been to France, didn't speak French. It was so not connected to me, and certainly not like owning a store. I had no connection to that whatsoever. It was a real bullshit answer. But had I had my values at the time, that would be something I could answer with knowing. I could say, well, I love being creative, so I want to open something different. So I could have framed everything I said the same. I could have said everything I said the same, but frame it differently from the lens of my values. So it's funny how we can turn an I don't know into something more grounded and real for us by talking about it through the lens of the values. And because at that time I felt so ashamed that I didn't have a good answer to that. That was that moment where I felt embarrassed and shameful that I didn't know what I wanted to do. But I was 17. How would I know? And that clearly wasn't the right school for me, and I didn't end up there. But but it that's a, you know, it stuck with me clearly all these years in that way, because it was a pure moment of, I don't know an answer to this.
Mhm. It's almost like you, when you're saying that, it just reminds me of going to a deeper place of knowing. So it's like there's the knowing of like what the future might hold, or what my intentions are, my desires, what I want, what is life going to look like, versus knowing the things that are internal to you that may show up differently, but don't shift a whole lot. Like they're there,
Right.
they're there for the taking. They're there for you to grab onto, for you to frame things, for you to just see life through the lens of those, as you said. And it makes such a difference to know that about you. So it's like knowing yourself
Right.
makes it so much easier. Like for me, knowing myself makes it so much easier to not know other things. Like,
Right.
it's not like I have to know myself, like this is my personality and this is so, but it's like it is that deeper knowing, right? The things that ring true for me, my essence, really connecting with that. And I would say that, gosh, over the years that I've been able to do that, as I get even more and more aware, and I'm able to really access that and to live from that place all the time, it's like all of the I don't knows don't matter as much, because there's something that's so solid that is there in its place. And the values are one of the ways in which you can start to have that sense of solidity and like anchor in something
Right.
that's like that really guides you as you move along.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that's well said, and that's really true. It's like the knowing becomes so much larger and deeper than the not knowing. It's almost on different planes altogether.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Ourselves, and that, I think that's a powerful thing. I was thinking about when you were talking too, right? Like even in playing a game, I've been playing pickleball a lot lately. There's so many times like I got this, and I'll totally miss the ball, like completely, you know, like I don't know. I thought I knew what the future was going to hold, but I clearly did not. I mean, I don't mean like hit a bad shot. I mean like a whiff. Like I took my eye off the ball because I thought I knew, and I didn't know.
Oh wow, is it?
You know, that's another side of it, right? Like when we think we know what we don't know, which is the future, really, anything past this moment of being present, then we you know, we lose that opportunity to really be in our life and you know, and embrace all of the excitement of this adventure that we're on, because we could have something to ground us. So Jude, I see your hand up if you want to.
Yeah, this is a really, and I love when you opened it up, Amy, that, this phrase has like tentacles, in so many different ways that what it brings up. When I first read the email and I saw it and I noticed that like, oh, I don't want to participate in that conversation. And then, as you were talking, yeah, I love the like, I don't know, like as right, like as my own practitioner, there's so many people who are so afraid of the unknown, right? The I don't know in a different way. Hang on, I'm going to sneeze. Thank you. No one needed to
Let's
hear
do.
that. And when you sit like, and then you shared the story about when you were younger, which first I just want to acknowledge why and how these values can be so profound for people at that age. but what came up for me, if I really want to get, honest with myself, in the past, that small self of me was so afraid to admit that I don't know, because it was such an insecurity. Like,
Mm.
I feel like I have to know everything. It was not just an insecurity, it was it was almost like a coping mechanism, that I had to know. And if I didn't know, I would literally freeze. So, and now, in bridging my values in with that, it's like, oh, wow. By me saying, well, a couple of things. One, by me saying I don't know is allowing other people, right, to have the freedom to not know, right, to not hold expectations of other people, but also bringing in my values. There's more curiosity and vulnerability, and the ways of, like, oh, I could be curious about finding out, and education, and, oh, how can I learn something new that I don't know, so anyway, that's what just came forward for me and all of that.
I love that. I love everything you said. And I'm so glad you decided to come, even though the email was a little off-putting. I know it can be sometimes confronting, some of these ideas that I put out there, but what you said is so true, that the insecurity of not knowing, it was so tied to identity that it made sense as children. I mean, I have such compassion for little Jude in that moment, teenage Jude, younger Jude, right? Like, as for myself, because it was, shame cut to the core. It was, I was not worthy. I didn't know. So that meant I was not good enough as who I was, if I didn't know the answer, or didn't know what to do, or didn't know. So the freedom that comes on this other side of it, the idea, I mean, what growth to be able to go from that place to curiosity is such a gift. That's shows how much work, inner work, you've done and reflected upon, and how much wisdom you have, that inner wisdom, because that's not if you had said that to me when I was 17, I would have been like, what? Like, that's not a 17-year-old way of thinking. And I know a lot of 50-year-olds who think like 17-year-olds. So nothing against 17-year-olds.
Yeah, I think it's just more of a matter of awareness. It's just a matter of
Yeah.
awareness. And that comes to us in different stages, in different ways,
Yeah.
Right.
It's funny.
Right. I just find myself at this point in life living a lot in the unknown. It's like the thing for me that is interesting is that what I've come to know about myself is that I don't have a really good ability to visualize. I'm very visual, but in terms of visualizing and seeing life in pictures and visualizing a future or whatever else, it never really comes to me that way. It comes to me more as a feeling than as something that I can see. So sometimes when I'm contemplating what a couple of years from now might look like, or what my life might look like, it's hard. It's hard because I just can't see. And even though I can't see, I'm reminded of when I take those walks on the beach and I look at the water, the expanse of water, and I don't see much of any life out there. And then I might see a dolphin, or I might see a sea lion, or I might see something, right? And it reminds me of how rich and how much is not available to me that I can't see, that's still there. I just can't see it. Right. So it gives me a little bit of peace, but that not knowing has become kind of the place that I find myself in more often than not. So I don't know. Even if I try, even if I do things that are moving me in the direction I think I want to go in, or I want to go in, there's no guarantee. There's no way of knowing for sure what it's going to look like. It's just like this constantly releasing that need to like have that, like the certainty isn't there. And that's the dynamic part. That's the part where the curiosity and the wonder and the joy come in
Right.
for my, it's one of my values. Yes. I don't know. I won't know. I will never know. But whoa, wow, look what just happened. Oh my goodness, look what, what I'm living in right now and what the experience is right now, and just being open to what I'm seeing, what I'm experiencing versus that need to know what a future is going to look like, or what the answer is going to be, or how it's all going to turn out. I mean, it's like that comes, I think that's come for me with age.
Yeah, I think so too.
Age and wisdom, I think it's come, it's like, it's not that it's always easy, please understand. It's not easy, but
No.
it is a practice of, like I said, drawing on the strengths that I have, drawing on my sense of who I am, knowing who I am, and being able to use that to know that, how whatever happens, I know that things are gonna turn out well. And my life is gonna be good. That much I do know, and that gives me a lot of peace.
One of my favorite mantras would just get related to what you say, or that I tell myself and write down every day, every week when I plan my week, is this is going to turn out better than I could possibly imagine.
I love that. I love that. Yes.
Because I can't imagine. I'm similar to you. The vision work has been a little bit more challenging to me. And the answer to that came when I was reading The Body Keeps the Score, and van der Kolk's book, which was the idea that, one of the symptoms of trauma, and Jude, you probably know this better as a trauma therapist, is one of the symptoms of trauma, right, is an inability to imagine it could be better. Like we lose, it's a consequence, I guess, of trauma. We lose that ability. And that's certainly been my experience from my childhood. So the I don't know felt really insecure, because I know it can't be better. And so the I don't know, not having the security of knowing, felt that much more intense. And so I get great comfort saying this is going to turn out better than I can possibly imagine. And I can feel that. Because my imagination tends to be on the darker side. I never related to like the fantasy world, and I was like, oh wait, I do have a big fantasy world. It's just dark. It's just one that like ends in a fairy tale, a good fairy tale. It's like you get lost in the woods. But the values hold the tether. They hold that. For me, when in those moments of the I don't know, that's what holds me to understand that it can turn out better than I could possibly imagine. Because when I'm in alignment with my core values, then I know I'm on the right path. And I'm out of alignment, I know something's off, and that's when I need to make a pivot or a detour or make a change.
Yeah, you said something that really struck me, and that was like, if your orientation is that it can't be better, then any imagining is going to be worse, right? Either the same or worse. And that's a very scary proposition for the I don't know, right? I don't know, knowing or sensing or believing that it's not going to be as good. I love the mantra, because that's, I think we're speaking the same language. Like when I say that, I just know that things are going to turn out, it's going to be good. I just don't know what it's going to be, right? I didn't always have that perspective either. And I haven't always had that perspective either. I've grown into that perspective and can draw upon my resilience, and can draw upon my history, and can draw upon my everything, all the core of me, to understand that, yeah, whatever it is, I'm going to weather it, and I'm going to learn and grow from it, and life is going to be better. And to be able to hold that orientation changes the I don't know conversation tremendously.
Right.
Yes. Jude.
Yeah, I love this, because as you were both talking, it just reminded me of having the I guess the consciousness right now in my life to learn that this is an invitation into living in the mystery, because it's all a mystery. And when I can hold that, there's an openness to that. And even, just this is for me because of, Amy, what you were sharing about the trauma and doing so much nervous system work and educating about it, that like when I tell myself this is going to be this way, it doesn't sit as well with me as if I say, what if this could be better? Like the question, what if this could be better than I ever imagined? Like my brain, my amygdala completely, you know, absorbs that and digests that, you know, differently. It's like, I love that expression that I'm probably getting it wrong and I'm going to have to look it up, the real thing. And Sheila, the last time you corrected my quote, so maybe you'll know it. But, and I welcome it. It was the Michael Beckwith quote the last time, but I don't know why my brain, I have a really steel trap memory. But anyway, the question is, or the statement is something like, you know, the value of our lives is equal to the value of the questions that we ask,
Mhm.
you know. And so when I keep asking those questions, you know, like the what if, and I do this a lot, you know, even in tapping, like once somebody, you know, it's just to switch the brain to be open to possibility.
It is such a beautiful switch. It is such a beautiful
Yeah.
set word. That those two words are so powerful, right? Because it is such an invitation. It's almost like it's like immediately my eyes, you know, how when you're thinking about something, your eyes go in different. My eyes always go up, right? When I think, what if? Okay, oh, so it's like there's all of this. Yeah, what if? And it takes it out of the realm of it has to be this particular way, right? So there's room for something else to emerge that may have never emerged before, that's like so powerful and so wonderful that you can't even imagine it. I love that. I love using that phrase and using that question to really guide you into like this place of just curiosity and wonder and like just, yeah, openness. Just so
Oh,
powerful.
yeah. I love that invitation of what if this could turn out better than I could possibly imagine, because it opens it up even greater than me having to know. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think if I'm anything, it's like a recovering person who like security seeker. I'm constantly looking to make the world more secure and safe for good reason from my early days, but
Mm-hmm.
that is still, there is no security to look, there is no there. I mean, I could even use professional, not professional, like personal development work, right? Like inner work to try and make sure that I am safe. And it just doesn't work that way. And so the what if really helps open that up. And I love the quote. I don't know who said it, but the value of our lives is equal to the value of the questions we ask. I know I've heard that before too. And I see the process of identifying values through that lens, right? It's an inquiry-based process, because oftentimes when we go back to the values, it's most people can pick them off of a list. Whereas if it's an inquiry-based, it's a more or open to possibilities more. We're accessing a different part of our brain to do that. So
Right. So Jude, not to disappoint, I think it's the quality of our lives. Is like I think it's about the quality of the questions is what I've heard before. And it might be value and quality. I've heard quality, and I think both are powerful because it's like asking the question, just posing the question. And that whole thing of living into a question and just allowing it to be and seeing what comes up from that is like so much around how we get to grow, how we get to experience life in a different way that feels much more aligned and much more positive than if we're like constantly bringing it in and narrowing it and not giving ourselves permission to explore.
right. Yeah. And looking for the rules. I used to look for the rules to some degree to make sure I knew if I was doing it right, it's going to turn out right. Like there was like that would be some kind of guarantee. It not so.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Yeah, love
And
this.
I hear that so often from clients, from people I work with, like, I got this, I checked it all off the list. And it's not, and the there isn't there. That could be in any field in which we're thinking that's going to change us and give us what we are looking for. Right. To feel better, I guess, in a sense, feel secure, feel better. But it's in the questioning. In the I don't know.
Yeah, I love that. I was
What
also
opens my
thinking about
door.
another thing that has come up for me in terms of since I can't envision the future. I just know that I use the phrase that I know that my life at some point is going to be unrecognizable to me, so that there will be enough shifts that I will have lived into a different reality that is so powerful and so that, like, I can't even imagine. It's like, wow, look where I am now. I didn't even know that my life could be like this, or this could be the experience that I'm having, and then yet I've lived into it. And so it does become like it becomes unrecognizable from the limitations of what it was before as I keep moving forward. Like,
Mhm.
oh my God, I'm not living under those constraints anymore. I'm not living with those limitations. And look at this. Look what has emerged. Look what I've become. Look what I've grown into. And it is this, and that's really exciting. I mean, for me, it's exciting to have a life that is unrecognizable, because that means there's been so many shifts. And it's like I've gone to a place that is beyond what I even expected. And it always
Yeah.
feels amazing to be there, to land there.
Yeah.
You know, and Sheila, what you just said too, it just I don't know why it like sparked like another angle of this too, you know, is that beginner's mind, right? Like that phrase, you know, I'm letting go of everything I think I know, and just every day, you know, being open to, you know, everything that I don't know, you know, just changing the whole focus to
Mhm.
you know, what's again kind of back to like the mystery, the wonder, what's available to me. And really, you know, a lot of times I think I know something, and if I knew it, then my results would be different, you
Right.
know. So there's
You're
so
here.
many different you know, pockets to this I don't know, and to be grateful for the for like you just said, this is what reminded me, Sheila, like how limited my thinking really is, you know,
Right.
when I'm so sure that I know someone. I know
Right.
something and someone sometimes.
Yeah.
Right. And that's that whole thing. I don't know what they used to call that, but I was just having a conversation with my sister yesterday, and she was saying, the stating this, well, sometimes people don't know what they don't know, right? We think that we know, but there's so much that this whole all these possibilities of things that we don't even know. So our little knowledge, our little knowing is so limited that it's like it's keeping us from the greater knowing, like for something bigger, right? Because it's like, I think I got this, I got this. And so our minds keep going back to this little thing, and then there's something much larger. And it's like, yeah, you don't get to know what you don't know. But if you can stay open to the possibility, and that's why like curiosity, wonder, and joy is one of my core values, is because that always reminds me that, okay, look, here's where you are now, and look at the possibilities of what life it promises for the future. And it's not around being dissatisfied with this moment, but it's just this opening and knowing that it just keeps getting better, right? So if I stay open to it and I keep allowing whatever's going to come in, and I don't have to know, I'm going to keep expanding, and that's
Right.
the absolute joy for me, is to know that that expansion exists and that I can keep doing it.
It's so beautiful and really true, right? It made me think and to want to ask the question for myself and you all too, like which one of your values supports that open to possibilities, the idea to be to embrace the I don't know. Do you have one of your values that speaks to that, or more than one? All of them? Which ones?
Yeah, even when you were just saying that, you know, just may not be a like the lead value, but you know, one of those integrated ones like compassion, you know, and
Mhm.
even having compassion for someone else, because I love what you said, Sheila. Like sometimes we just don't know what we don't know, and we have expectations, or I'll speak for me. I sometimes have expectations that somebody should be a certain way, or act a certain way, or behave a certain way, you know, and really they just might not. This actually just came up, a conversation with my husband around my brother. And then I realized, wow, like he just doesn't have access. He doesn't know, you know, he doesn't know what he doesn't know. And I really just like humbled myself into compassion for him rather than, you know, judging him.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a really profound shift to recognize that. So compassion, again, as I said before, curiosity, wonder, humility,
Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm.
I don't know it all,
Mhm.
just the way
Mhm.
it is. Anyway, I'm going to
Mhm.
be quiet now.
You're doing fine.
No,
I
you're
love that part
great.
about compassion, because that is just so that really is so much. You talk about the self-compassion and also the compassion for others. I mean, having both really serves that whole notion of I don't know and what people don't know and what I don't know. It's like I might even I think that I'm pretty good at reading people, actually really good. But there's so much more complexity there than even I can see about my own life, right? So it's like whenever I think that I have a handle on something, it's only limited, right? It's a very limited handle. It might be operational kind of idea about something, but there's so much more complexity. There's so many things I don't know, right,
Right.
about somebody else. I don't and that compassion comes in with not knowing what other people have been through, what they've walked through, what they've, what their experience has been that has led them to that place. It reminds me of that book that talks about, instead of looking at people who act out and who have problems as what's wrong with you, it's like what happened to you, right? So there's like things that are in people's experience that we don't have access to, but that compassion takes you back to a place of like just being open to the possibility that there's some things here that I don't have access to that probably have shaped how this person has come to be how they are. And I can like really honor and respect that it's a hard journey and this is,
Right.
doing the best that they can.
Yeah, I think that's really true.
And me too, doing the
Yeah.
best that I
Right. It has to come back that
can.
way. Like I can get, I've talked about this too, which is getting too far, overly compassionate for other and forgetting myself, which is why the values are so key because they go both ways.
Mhm.
A lot of times people who are in the helping industries, coaches, therapists, nurses, doctors, practitioners, tend to be compassionate by nature, empathetic, and overgive, and forget that the compassion has to come back towards self. And why I call the values a bridge is because it, by definition, goes both ways.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it's not one way or the other in that capacity. And for me, my value of gratitude and grace came up when I was thinking about which one had
Mhm.
the open to possibility and creativity for sure. But gratitude and grace was the first thing, because of gratitude being the kind of the practical piece of living in this world, recognizing that things are happening here that I can be grateful for, in the prayer, and that my role, basically my role. And then the grace being the full on, I don't know, the miracle mindedness in a sense,
Mhm. Mhm.
and embracing that too in that regard.
Mhm.
So is anyone going through an I don't know moment right now? Is there something happening that they want to talk about or share a little bit about? Anyone? Who would like to say something?
I guess I will if there's no other takers.
I would love to hear from
Unless
you.
Coach Constance wants to share, because I don't want to be the hogger.
No, no hogging.
Sure. I like to practice living from a place of I don't know. I don't know what lies ahead, and I don't know. It's kind of a stoic take on things of the not knowing, and to be in the moment, and to be, like you said, open to the possibilities and the black swans, the unknowns that are even better than what I can imagine. And but then sometimes when I don't know a decision, as far as making a decision, then I start losing my own power and looking to others to make the decision for me and give away my power.
Mhm.
And so at some point in decision making, a knowing and an owning comes in for me. So, but it's interesting to think about the I don't know
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's powerful, right? Like when we make a decision and we don't really know, we have to kind of make the best decision with the variables in front of us
Mm-hmm.
and get super clear within ourselves. And the values can help do that. That's how I run through decisions too, as I check them along that
Mm-hmm.
point, right? That,
Mhm. Mhm.
but that's another good point. When you don't know and you have to make a decision, that's tough. And I try to feel which is the better feeling decision is kind of where I've had to land after many decades of
Mm-hmm.
of making decisions, which just feels better to me. So
Nodding my head vigorously because that's exactly what I do. It has to be a feeling that if I can project anything, it's like I try to imagine what it would feel like, what the consequences of that will feel like as it ripples out. How is it going to feel? How is it going to land in terms of how it feels? And that influences my decision making too, because I think that the truth is that even when you do feel very confident about a decision, there's still a lot of the variables are there. There's still a lot of unknowns. I mean, life is unknown, right? The future is unknown. So even with that, there's still a lot of unknowns in there and I don't knows, but it's just what your level of comfort and not just like being in your comfort zone, but what lands in a way that feels resonant is probably the better word. It feels resonant and aligned. What feels most resonant and aligned, even if it's uncomfortable, that I can live with. And I know that because I have my strong sense of self and core, that I'm going to be able to navigate and negotiate and manage however it turns out. Right? That gives me a lot of peace and and courage to like just keep going because it's like, right, here we go. Game on, as you said. All right.
game on.
Yes.
Yeah. The game keeps going whether we know or not, right? So like whether we decide or not, the game. Sometimes decisions I've made by making no decision. And then that's like kind of a backward decision making.
Mhm.
So
In there too. Yes.
Yeah. You know, what everyone just shared, Amy, you were asking about what value, it also leads me back to trusting my decisions, and also like I know what I know at any given moment, right? And based on the information that I have or the inner, experience that I'm leaning into. And, this whole thing, I really appreciate this because you were saying, like, does anyone have like a, real life? So I started, I had an appointment a week ago with a new practitioner for my health. And tomorrow was the follow up where he like takes all of my information, and kind of gives me the first, just give it to me easy, whatever it is, the first layer. And, and, and just from this call today, I, in my past, right, or in the past experience up until now, everything I have based my conclusion on knowing or believing, right, that it has to be hard. It has to be hard. It has to be arduous. It has to cost thousands of dollars. No one's going to get it, all of that stuff. And really challenging for me to be open to a new experience, and with what we were talking about earlier, it's like, oh, what if it could be more simple than I could ever possibly imagine? Like, what if it's not that what if he holds the key because I hold the key to my healing, right? But what if I can open myself up to a different experience of this and rely on my knowing that there's possibility here?
right. Yeah. That's so
That all came within this last 40 minutes. So
Oh, that's so cool.
that's so beautiful. And so resonant with all this, with this conversation, right? So, because when we think we know it's going to be tough and hard, we bring that with us.
Mhm, mhm,
I've certainly lived much of my life like that.
mhm. Kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy in a sense. Because
Mhm.
this is like, yeah, this is the expectation, this is the result, right? There's so much to, especially Jude, as you talk, thank you for sharing that. And when you're talking about issues relative to your health and well-being, I mean, any of those things, it could be career, whatever it is, but they're all, I mean, they just land in a really personal way, right? This has implications that ripple out to other areas of your life, right? So really getting it right, or getting to a place of getting the kind of answers that you need and moving in the direction that you need is so important. And knowing that it could be a lot simpler is like, wow, that just like takes so much of the weightiness and the stress off of the healing process. So that's like really powerful place to get to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even thank you. And even just, if anyone has had this experience, because of like, it feels like in my mind, right? Oh, I've been to everybody, like that kind of mentality, in the past. And trusting, right, that I know I made this decision to work with this particular person, with this investment right now, because I'm choosing to lean into trusting myself. So
Mm.
whatever happens, whatever the outcome is, right, I know that I can trust and rely on myself. And that's a different knowing, that he might or might not be the right person. I don't know, but maybe he'll get me to where I need to go next. So it's just a different way of, I don't know, more like, I don't know, but not judging myself or holding myself accountable for any particular outcome.
Love
Right.
it. Love
And
that.
what you're describing is inspired living still one of your values?
Thank you. Yes.
Right? Like, to me, that's what you're describing. Like the inspired living.
Yeah. Thank you. She knows my values better than I do. Thank you, Amy. It is inspired living. And you know what? Even as I was talking, I didn't even recognize like the value of what I was really believing inside myself until you just reflected that back.
Right.
So thank you for your brilliant memory.
Well, and I think that's what's so important, why the values can help with this, right? Because they can help hold us in that knowing through the not knowing, in the beauty of that.
Right.
They hold us to that higher knowing. I don't even know if the levels are right, but I say it not higher in a hierarchical way, but that kind of highest self, deeper knowing, wise mind knowing. They bridge us there.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah. And why it's helpful why we talk about putting them out so we can see them, so keep them in our mind, because they have answers for us regularly. I have to go to them constantly in a good way. It becomes just habit, or lifestyle, I guess, in a way. That's the integration.
That's a good place to be. And Jude, I was just reminded of another Michael Beckwith saying, and it has to do with a doctor can really help with the diagnosis, but the prognosis is up to you and spirit, right? So there's like the limitations of as you said, entering into the conversation that you're seeing a practitioner, which is somebody that practices, that is getting better at their craft, but doesn't have all the answers, right? And that deeper knowing and trust that you had in yourself, that this is the right person for me right now. I don't know what it's going to look like, but they're leading me there. That's really powerful. I know you have to leave, so thank you so much for coming forward.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. I just put it in the chat, but really beautiful conversation. I so appreciate it. Thank you. And thank you, Coach Constance, too, for what you shared.
Thank
I
you.
love having
Thank you, everybody.
We still have 10 minutes if you want to stay on.
Oh, okay.
She just had to go a little early.
Okay.
If you want. Yeah, but that's just so powerful. I can reflect on so many experiences in my own life where I followed that, just understood that without even knowing it. I just understood that to be true, right? That deeper knowing that you have about the role that you get to play in healing, is so profound and really has everything to do with how you view that, and that you and one of my values is to activate. I've changed it many times. It's more about activating healing and well-being, because that has been such a journey for me, right? It's really activating what's inside of me that knows who to seek out, knows what to do, that finds myself, if I've got some aches and pains, massaging or doing things, and like massaging different parts of my body that then like I can feel in that part that's, just without ever having known that. It's just like I'm just being intuitively guided to that, right? And everybody has their own way of healing, but to know that you get to play such an active role in how that turns out, the prognosis, the diagnosis, oh, this is what it is, but how it turns out, oh my God, I've had so many experiences where it was like way different from what the doctors ever envisioned and told me. And if I'd stuck to that and believed that that was true, then I would be at a much different place than I find myself today. So it's like, and that's again, not knowing, but it's like, okay, so what's inside that I'm gonna allow to guide me to the right source, guide me to the right food, guide me wherever it is that I need to go to do this thing, or to do the things that are gonna help me in my growth and healing.
And I think that's so profound and such an important part of this conversation. And because there's so much in that I don't know, right? And then there's the data, because we've become so focused on data. What does the data say, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's more than just the data, and the data can be useful. Like it's holding the duality of both of those,
Mm-hmm.
what we do know and what we don't know
Mm-hmm.
at the same time.
Right. And that's the part of the mystery, the mystery.
Right.
Because we don't get to know, but there's so much more than my little mind can comprehend, and access. And I'm going to be open and available to what else is beyond my capacity to be able to understand, knowing that it can serve me, right? If I just open up to it. Right. So that's the thing that I keep going back to, that like, okay, that helps me again in this not knowing. It's like, that's okay that I don't know. I feel like with my values and with practicing presence and understanding a lot of different things, that I can get there, because I'm going to I'll be able to tune into the little, whatever those nudges are, whatever those intuitive hits are, whatever that little thing that says, oh, do this, and listen to that voice, right? And it's going to guide me, and I'm going to end up being okay.
Right. It's when I doubt that voice. Yeah. And being able to hold all of it there.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. But, there's that story too. Oh, I have to look it up, but it's that idea like of wanting to win the lottery, right? And like that, someone's like, I really want to win the lottery, really want to win the lottery. And then God's like, you got to buy a lottery ticket.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
So that's, the both, the yes and of that of the I don't know, right? Like, I don't know if I'm gonna take the risk and buy the ticket, but because I got to buy the ticket to get there. And then being guided to buy the ticket, and then if you win, you win. If not, that's not meant to, we don't know if we're gonna win.
I always say that, bringing that up. It's like, yeah, I won't be winning because I didn't play.
Hey, yeah, if I don't buy a ticket, I'm not gonna win the lottery.
You don't take the shot, you don't score the goal.
Or you won $1.
Well, you won $1? Yeah.
Or $5. Some of them are like $20 now.
I preserved it for sure. Yes.
It's so funny. Yeah. So, but there's so much richness in the I don't know, and holding in that space.
Yeah, I think the thing that, as I reflect on this conversation today, I think the thing is that the I don't know can be very scary, and as you said, it can be very rich, and it depends upon the handle that you take, right? And choosing a different way of envisioning or thinking about I don't know has so much to do with what internal resources you have, and the values really help you to understand what those internal resources are. And that can really make the difference between looking at the I don't know as something that's fearful, that has to be controlled, versus having that sense of expansion and openness and possibility. And holding that place inside of yourself makes all the difference in the world, in terms of how you're going to view it, with fear and trepidation, or with like kind of curiosity and openness and,
Right.
ease and wonder.
Yeah. It's so beautifully said. It's that when we know ourselves, the I don't know becomes so much more tolerable.
Absolutely.
Because, and then the values help us know who we are, how we are on the world, what matters to us. And so they help us with that knowing, which enables us to have the fortitude really to handle the discomfort of not knowing. Is what I've found in my life.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
Yeah. Any final thoughts, Coach Constance?
No, it's just good to hear everything. Good to hear the topic and everybody's values attached to it, how it works in their lives.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, I love you sharing that you reside in the I don't know space, because that's just a space.
I do my best.
I mean that that you just welcome in and know that this is it, right? This is the playing ground. This is what I get to operate with. The I don't know, and there's an acceptance in that really opens things up too. So I think that that's a powerful place to get to for people.
Yeah.
And thank you for sharing that.
For sure. All right. Well, shall we end it here? We're right about time.
Sure.
Yes, thank you so much for coming, Constance. As always.
Thank you for having this.
So good to see you.
It's lovely.
And Jude and anybody else will be watching in the replay.
Yeah.
Always.
Comments in the questions in the comments, right?
Right.
All right, I'm going to turn off the recording.